Hi everybody, it's Bank from Books Off the Beaten Path, and I'm here with a book tag. I was tagged by Philip the Great, and Philip at A Poet Reads to Write, so thank you, Philip. And the book tag, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I'm going to call it a childhood, sorry, I got something in my eye, a childhood book tag. Okay, I can't see. Okay, that's a little better. Now, Twitch has entered the room, so please God. Oh no, 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 no. I'm gonna put her downstairs and be right back. Hey everybody, it's Meg from Books Off the Beaten Path, and I'm here with a tag video. I was tagged by Philip the Great. Philip from A Poet Reads to Write. I don't remember the exact name of the tag, but I'm gonna call it the Children's Book Tag. And I've got a couple of graphics that I haven't done for a while, so I'm going to put those up there, but let's just get right into it because I've got to get ready for work, and I'm sure you've got things to do too. Okay, number one, were you a reader as a child? Yes, I was. And it wasn't one of those things where I didn't have a lot of friends or, because I had a brother and we played, and then I had cousins that were always visiting, and I had friends on the street. We had a great neighborhood set of friends, and we would ride bikes and everything like that. But I tell you what, I never liked nighttime. Nighttime was just I didn't like it. I guess I'm fearful of it a little bit, and that started as a child. And so that started me reading at night to read myself to sleep, and that was important to me. I was an early reader. I didn't have any problem learning reading. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I was a big reader as a child, big reader. Did your parents read to you? If so, what? I don't remember my parents reading to me like picture books and everything like that. I'm sure that they did because they were both big readers. My father was a teacher, and he was a teacher. He taught many things. He taught English, and he taught history, and he taught philosophy, and he taught economics and everything like that. And occasionally he would read to me passages of things for the beauty of it. I remember this poem, and I don't know who wrote it, called The Eagle, and it's just about this eagle flying and then coming down and grasping a fish with its talons. I think that's what it was about. And it was just like 6 lines. And I remember him like rushing in to my bedroom one night and reading that to me because he was teaching that and the beauty of it and everything. So yes, they did read to me, but it wasn't like the way I read to my children, because the way I read to my children, at least it's not the way I remember it. The way I read to my children was, we would have a bath, and then after the bath, they would get read to and then put to bed. It didn't seem like it was that structured. But they were readers themselves, so maybe they were just too busy reading their own books. They didn't have time to read to me, I don't know. First book memories. Okay, so my first book memories, I'm going to give you 3. My first book memory is There's a Wocket in My Pocket. That was the first book that I ever saw at a bookstore and I wanted to own and read on my own. There's a Wocket in My Pocket, and I remember I got it for Christmas, I think, and I was so thrilled, and I read it over and over and over. I must have been about 5, I think it was about 5, but I got it from, or they got it from, B. Dalton Bookstore. B. Dalton Bookstore. If you guys remember B. Dalton, I don't know if you do or not. I don't even know if they had anything like that over across the pond where several of my viewers are, but B. Dalton Bookstores. And then the other beautiful memory I have is we had a place in T-Town called Steve's Sundry. And I'll put a picture up of it, but it doesn't do it justice. And it was books and a soda fountain. And so and it sold candy and it sold books and magazines, and it had the soda fountain. And the soda fountain, they made this amazing chicken salad sandwich. And you could get limeades there, and you could get floats there, and everything like that. And my father, who was voracious, and my mother was also a voracious reader, but we would go there on summer nights. We'd all get in the car and we'd go to Steve's Sundry. And I remember how the light would come in from the setting sun. The light would come in and it would highlight certain books. That's when I got into reading cozy mysteries, because I started to, and my parents they never censored what I read. They never censored what I read. They would warn me. They would say, you know, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, you might find it boring, da, da, da. But they never censored what I read. And I would always get a peppermint patty or a Jolly Rancher stick. I don't think they make them anymore, a Jolly Rancher stick. And I would go home and eat my peppermint patty and suck on my Jolly Rancher stick and read my little cozy mystery. And it was wonderful. It was fantastic. Okay, be honest, did you read the books assigned to you at school? No, I didn't. And I'll tell you how I got around that. Because we were given lists of books to choose from. And my father would take that list like a hungry freaking bear and would go through it and decide what I was going to read. And he always picked out, in my opinion, the most boring, the hardest, because he wanted to stretch me. It's like, you got to read above your level and everything like that. And I remember one summer just battling through Death Comes for the Archbishop. And I will never, ever have that book in my house again. It was horrible. So what I did was I would like read a little bit, and I would read a little bit, and then I would say to my dad, I'm like, I'm just not following the plot well, whatever. And he would talk about it and everything like that, and talk about it enough to where I could write the paper. So I used him to cheat. And I don't think he ever knew that. So sorry, Dad. I used you to cheat. Let's see. Where did you get your books as a child? I got them from the library and from Steve's Sundry. We had a library very close to us, and I got a library card when I was early. And the fact that you can, at my library, you still can, you can check out 50 books at one time. Now, I never was allowed to check out 50 books at one time, but I could get 10. And oh my gosh, that was just like, that was the greatest thing in the world, was to be able to get 10 books at one time. Now, I couldn't read them all in 2 weeks, but I certainly tried. Did you watch television meant to inspire reading? No, I didn't. Because some of my favorite shows were like Emergency and Adam 12. I don't know if anybody knows what those are, but Emergency was about this fire engine, and they would go Rampart, and they would go back to the hospital and everything like that. And then Adam 12 was about these two police officers. And but I never read police officer or fire engine books. I just never read those. It wasn't into that adventure. I would watch it, but I wouldn't read it. Let's see, what sort of genres or storylines did you like as a child? Oh, spooky books. Give me a spooky book. I remember the first spooky book I think I ever read was a Phyllis A. Whitney. I believe it was The Drowning Pool, I think it was The Drowning Pool. And I should have had pictures of all of these up, but I don't have as much time as I used to. So I've got a couple of pictures, but I should have a picture of The Drowning Pool, and then I'm going to get off that subject. But I remember reading that and just thinking, oh, that was the coolest book I've ever read. And then that started me down the spooky book path, because the cozy mystery path was one path where there was always a happy ending and there was never really anything supernatural, that it wasn't like a Scooby-Doo kind of supernatural, like you would find out it was a real person being the ghost or whatever. But The Drowning Pool, I believe, had a real ghost in it, and I just adored that. I just thought that was wonderful. And then when I was in junior high, I was really big into Poe. I was really big into Poe. I wasn't a Gothic kid, but I was into Poe and Shakespeare, and still into both of them. But I would read anything related to Poe and Shakespeare and all their stuff. Let's see. Favorite children's or picture books? Walk It in My Pocket. I loved all the Dr. Seuss. I just adored the Lorax. The Bitter Butter Battle was one of my favorites. Favorite chapter of Big Kids books? Little House on the Prairie, because I imagined myself as Laura Ingalls, because my aunt and uncle, Uncle Ollie and Aunt, I can't remember her name because they were so old, they actually came during the land run on a covered wagon and everything. And so they were land run. We're Sooners born and bred, and so they were land runners. And I remember thinking, gosh, that could have been me in the back of that covered wagon. And I just read the heck out of those books. Then I found out years later, did you know that she made a lot of that up? And then it wasn't really that as exciting and picturesque and everything like that. And then she went crazy. Yes. So maybe that's my future. Maybe that's what's going to happen to me. And so that was my favorite children's series, was Little House on the Prairie. And did I answer all the questions? Yes, I did. Was I too fast? Probably so. But you know, I keep checking the time there and everything. So I'm gonna do another book tag this weekend. I'm going to 2 more this weekend, which I'm very excited about. And thank you to all of my subscribers for hanging in there with me. And I hope you have a fantastic Friday and a wonderful weekend. And I will check you later. Wait, I have to do an honorable mention because this was very important in my reading life. When I was in high school, at the very beginning of high school, I read Interview with the Vampire, and Anne Rice became my goddess. I read the Vampire series, I watched the movies, I read the Mayfair Witches, which is still my favorites, but I did want to give those honorable mentions out there because, you know, in high school, you're very influenced by things. That's a stupid thing to say. You're influenced by things through your whole life, not just a child and everything. But Little House on the Prairie, when I was little, you know, when I was young, 8-ish or something like that, Poe and Shakespeare in junior high. But then in high school, I became an Anne Rice fanatic, an absolute fanatic. So, sorry, now I'll check you later.